Thanks. Tough to follow the mayor and Joellen. So I'll tell you a little bit about my past. So I got into research as an undergraduate student, and some of the federal funding is critical for those undergraduate research opportunities, and I'll follow up on that. But right now, we have undergraduate students that think there may not be opportunities, they may change their careers. It's scary. So just to give you some specifics, my research team within my lab has 16 scientists, 8 PhD students or doctoral students, 4 postdoctoral fellows who are getting additional training before potentially leading their own research groups or going to industry, and then 4 staff scientists. And many of these are co-mentored by my faculty colleagues, and so this really pushes the research forward. So currently my lab has funding from the National Institute of Health, the National Science Foundation, and the Department of Defense, specifically the congressionally directed medical research program. All this is for neuromuscular diseases, and all these neuromuscular diseases affect so many people, and unfortunately we don't have effective treatments, and if our funding is halted or there's uncertainty, things will slow down and directly affect these families. So as I said, if these grants are terminated or delayed, we'll have to let staff go, postdoctoral fellows go, and I won't be able to pay my doctoral students. So the research we're doing on neuromuscular diseases will be dramatically curtailed if some of these proposed cuts go through. And it's sad because the field's making progress towards treatment. So currently, ALS, there's no effective treatments. The most common form of muscular dystrophy, myotonic dystrophy, we don't have effective treatments. And that's the kind of work that we do. So, and just a few facts I'd like to remind you about. So NIH funding contributes to 99.4% of all the drugs approved by the FDA in the last decade, okay? Last year, NIH funding supported over 400,000 jobs with nearly $100 billion in new economic activity nationwide. So what that means is that every dollar that NIH invests, it yields more than $2.5 in economic benefit. So there's a real return on investment in these dollars. So cuts to federal funding have already impacted my lab. 2 of my PhD doctoral students are losing their funding because they're supported by supplements to my NIH grants. Another thing that's sad for our muscular dystrophy community is for 2 years we've been working on getting a grant funded on muscular dystrophy, and it's named in the honor of Senator Paul Wellstone. We received a great score, and it was supposed to be discussed at council on January 28th, so I was excited to see what would happen with that. We were expecting to get funded, but unfortunately that NIH meeting was canceled or postponed. We don't know when it's going to be rescheduled. That grant that was for $5 million with us and the VCU was going to fund basic and clinical research for myotonic dystrophy. I'm hopeful that maybe it will still happen. So as I said, this large grant would support basic and clinical research for children with one of the most common forms of muscular dystrophy. This is myotonic dystrophy. So here in New York, 1 in 2,100 New Yorkers carry the mutation that causes myotonic dystrophy. And this is a really devastating disease because what frequently happens at the hospital is that a child's diagnosed with floppy baby syndrome. They may be on a respiratory. They may pass because the disease is so severe. And then because it's the way the genetics work is one of the parents have the disease, so parents get diagnosed, aunts and uncles get diagnosed. There's families here in New York that we work with that 4 out of the 6 individuals are affected. And so we are really that voice to help them move the research forward. So my current Department of Defense grant I think is safe, but the budget for the DoD CDMRP in this most recent continuing resolution was cut by 57%. So it's going to be much tougher to get funding from that source. And it's not just myotonic dystrophy or muscular dystrophy. Arthritis research, autism, epilepsy, lung cancer, and Parkinson's are all affected by that cut. Our National Science Foundation research, it's a grant that funds opportunities for undergraduate researchers, which is critical. And so we're lucky that this year we're going to be able to do it this summer, but we've seen a 400% increase in our applications. We had over 430 applications because many other programs were cut. We only have 10 slots. So it's incredibly competitive. And actually we had one student decline the opportunity because they were worried it was still going to get cut, even though we tried to tell them that this funding is secure. So with just my 2 NIH and DoD grants, we have over $8 million of funding. I'm also part of an NIH grant that provides another $900,000 of fundings for 5 years, and then the NSF grant's a little over $360,000 over 3 years. And this money doesn't just stay here inside the university. It goes throughout the capital region. My staff and I pay mortgages, we buy groceries, send our kids to schools. Our labs buy many of our supplies from New York companies like Crackler. And a lot of this research is spun out into startup companies. And so all of these cuts are going to have these ripple effects. And so it's really important that we support science. Thank you.